Nanaskaman. Thank you. Thank you for having and for listening to me today. The words I speak are words of truth. My name is Margaret Kisaka Piesis. In Cree, that means daybird. That is the name of my ancestors, and I carry that name today in a good way. I am the Okama, the CEO for CAN, Communities, Alliances, and Networks. I reside in a land called Canada. That is the land of my ancestors. I am of Cree ancestry. I am a mother of two, a grandmother of three, and an auntie to many. I am so delighted to be here on this land, and I honor the people from the land and the animals and the plants and all of that, and the beautiful thunderbirds that showed up today and brought this rain. It's so beautiful to be here in the land and to listen to this, to the people that bring life, Pamasawan, to what we're talking about today, the importance of family planning. Today I am standing before you. I am a traditional medicine practitioner. I am a lot of things to my communities that I serve. I have ancestry in George Gordon First Nation and in Pepikasi's First Nation. That is where my mother and my father are from, on the reserves in the land called Canada. I've worked over 30 years in HIV and AIDS. The organization I am leader of right now is grounded in HIV and Indigenous ways of knowing and doing. Today we look for solutions that are going to bring life, Pamasawan, to the people. Grounded within our areas of knowing, our knowledge of the medicines, of the ceremonies, of the teachings, of the many things that have to come back to the land is so important. We want to bring solutions to life for our children, for our women, for our men, and for those to come. I do this work as part of my knowing as an Indigenous woman that I have to do this work. It's so important for me to leave for those to come, for my own children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren, and those to come. A legacy that will be filled with that type of knowing as an Indigenous woman, because that's who I am today. My role and responsibility is to take care of life as women. That is our role and responsibility. And when we talk about our Indigenous ways of knowing and doing, we have to dig deep within our traditions and our culture to understand what we need to do here today so that we can bring that life back once more and to work in unity with what exists on the land called Canada now. Where I come from, there is still a lot of truth that has to be told. We're in a generation right now of truth and reconciliation. The government of Canada has apologized to the Indigenous people of the land for what they have put us through the many years of genocide on this land and still continuing today. There's a lot of truth to be told and there's a lot of work to be done. And as we move forward and look for those solutions that are going to make a difference in our communities, it has to come from our Indigenous ways of knowing and doing, rooted deeply in our ways. I talked earlier about an opportunity where I was able to understand who I was as an Indigenous woman, that knowing came from my ancestors, that my walk on this earth today, I get my ways from my ancestors, from the universe. My degrees of knowing come from the universe, not from a university. Those are ways that I know have helped me to speak and to be and to bring to life those solutions that we have as Indigenous people. So it's important for me today to share that with the world, that as we walk through the different places and look at the different Indigenous peoples of the land, that they have solutions for what we're faced with today, that we need to walk hand in hand with them and to look for that opportunity for them to bring those solutions to life. That's important to me as a woman, as a life giver, one that looks after and takes care of life. We have to look for those ways once more on this earth, on Mother Earth. And that's important for us as we look towards those solutions. I'm also a researcher, but my ancestors were researchers since the beginning of time. on the land called Canada. We've been doing research for forever, since the beginning of time. So I carry those ways in me, and I research among the Indigenous people, and I ask them what they would like to know, what they would like to bring back to our ways and our understandings. That's important to us as Indigenous people. We have the solutions, but we need to talk about them once more. We need to remember who we are on the land, and how we relate to all things, and how we can bring solutions to life as we move forward in research, in medicine, in our practices. You know, as a traditional medicine practitioner, I made an oath to my ancestors and to the universe that I would take care of the plants, and that I would have a relationship with them, and that I would know them, and that they would know me, and that I could ask them when I needed something to help with women that are struggling with many different things in today's world. A lot of the diseases that we talk about today in Canada were not on that land. They were brought from across the water to the land called Canada. And so today we have to deal with those diseases, and we have to look for solutions. But we also have to partner with the many different institutions, systems, and agencies that are there right now to bring that to life. But our ways are no lesser than the ways that have come to that land. Our ways are just as important, and we need to work together. So when I talk about medication and medicine, we have medication that is given to us by the pharmacists, by the doctors, but we also have medicines that are given to us, traditional medicines from our ancestors, from our ceremonial people, that bring life to us in some of the issues that we're talking about today at this international conference. The solutions that you're seeking come from the people, and it has to be grassroots, community-driven solutions that are going to make a difference in those communities. I spoke a bit earlier about the truth that we have in Canada now, going through a truth and reconciliation process. At CAN, the organization I lead back in Canada, I am the Okama. In Cree, that means the chief or the leader. And the vision we have for the people is that ultimate truth that we want for Indigenous people on the land. We want to seek our solutions in our Indigenous ways of knowing and doing, through the medicines, through the plants, through the ceremonies, through the teachings, through the beauty of the song and the dance and the arts that we have. It's the beauty ways I have been told and taught by one of the elders back in Canada, that talks about our ways and how beautiful they are, and how that as we begin to move forward, we need to acknowledge that work that it's so important for us to do. I do this work, and many of my Indigenous colleagues from back home and from across the world talk about our ways and how it's important, and that we need to bring those solutions back once more to the lands that we come from, and to respect and honor all that is there, living and non-living. As Indigenous people, we seek that relationship, Wakotowin, with all things living and not living. Wakotowin means kinship in our Cree language, and it's one of our natural laws that we live with today, that we are related to everything. Indigenous people have practiced harm reduction since the beginning of time on the land. Harm reduction is not new to us. One of my favorite stories I have to share about an organization I worked with back in Saskatchewan, All Nations Hope Network. I dedicated 25 years of my life there to that organization, to vision and to help there, because the main people that we serve are the human beings. As a humanitarian, we know the importance of listening to the humans as they go through their needs that they have, to be able to look at that health and wellness in their own lives. And so at the All Nations Hope Network, we have an outreach program called Owasu. Owasu is a place of hope in Cree, or he or she warms up in Cree, Owasu. And that place is open during COVID 24/7. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it was open. When all other doors closed down across Canada because of COVID, because of this pandemic that happened across the Mother Earth, in Saskatchewan, in Canada, the AIDS movement kept their doors opened. They knew how to work with a virus. And so when COVID came, the doors continued to be open and we continued to serve the people. That's harm reduction. And what we say as we follow our natural laws of the land is that every human being is important. The spirit that lives in them lives in me, lives in our creator, Kisi Manito. Our beliefs and our creation stories are very real to us as we move forward and look for those solutions. We do ceremonies all the time, asking for help. We send the medicine before us. We send our ancestors before us when we're doing any type of work, whether it's programming, training, research, service providing. We ask for good things all the time, and we're very thankful for what we get. To us as Indigenous people, it's not the government that makes our work take place. It's our belief in our traditional knowledge and knowing that makes things happen for us. And that's a very beautiful way of thinking. So we're not always scrambling for funding to look for solutions. What we're doing is we're doing things in ceremony and we're asking for things to happen for the people. Ultimately, at the roots of everything we do are human beings. We don't move unless it is going to benefit our communities. And when we talk about partnership within the other institutions, systems, and agencies, we welcome them into our ceremonies and we ask our ancestors if it's okay for us to work with them, that their hearts are pure and good, that they are there for the people. Even when we do research, our ethics don't come from a university, they come from the universe. We ask our ancestors first if it's okay to do this work. There's a beauty in our way of thinking when we look for those solutions that are deeply rooted in our Indigenous ways of knowing and doing. And it's important that I speak to the world to tell them they need to dig within their own ancestors and see who they are and ask who they are, because once upon a time we were all tribal people. I know who I am still because we've only been colonized for about 150 years in the land called Canada. We still know our traditions, our language, our medicines, our teachings. We still know all of that. We still have the beauty that we are going to leave as a legacy for the next ones to come. My children, my grandchildren, my adopted families, the people I lead today at CAN, Communities, Alliances, and Networks, and the All Nations Hope Network, I leave that legacy for them. And I know that the work that I do today will continue, and it'll be even more than what I've done. I know my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren, those to come, will do even more than I've done to help. And that's what I leave as a legacy. And my first career when I was a young woman was childbirth instructing. And I seen many babies being born. And I always thought there was something wrong with how I was doing that. It didn't fit with how I was thinking. But I still helped the young girls to through their pregnancy, through their delivery, through their early parenting. And now today I know even more. And I've been adopted by many teachers and ceremonial people, and have told me and shared with me and taught me different ways of childbearing and those traditional practices that we look towards to bring life to the next generations to come. So those are things that I know. And the last thing I'll do when I'm done here, and it might be maybe 20 years from now, I don't know, I'm going to catch babies again. But this time I'll catch them Indigenous ways of knowing and doing through our teachings, our practices, our medicines, our songs, a beautiful way of bringing a new life and taking care of life. And that'll be the last thing I do before I leave. So I want to thank everybody for listening. And I certainly am open to further questions at the CAN, Communities, Alliances, or Networks. I am definitely a speaker of sorts, and I love to share my knowledge. Knowledge is free, supposed to be free, and we should share it. An elder told me I can't keep that knowledge, I have to share it. And it has to be freely given because it was freely given to me. So thank you so much. Hi, hi.